Some people believe that having two financial advisors brings twice the wisdom.
Right.
But does it really just bring twice the confusion? We're going to talk about it on today's episode with Frank Oliver of Oliver Asset Management. Let's dive in. Frank, great to be with you again. How's life?
See you, Walter. It's good. It's good. Coming off a nice weekend.
Good.
The weather's still nice.
Yeah. The fall leaves have kind of been changing here in
Pretty
Colorado.
out there, isn't it? 60s, 70s. Nice to wake up to that.
Yes.
So, it's great.
It's been nice taking the edge off the temperatures a little bit here
100%.
And we're starting to get snow. For those who aren't in Colorado, we're starting to get snow on the mountains.
The peaks look beautiful with the snow coming down.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
So it just makes for some great scenery. So we're happy campers. Hope wherever you are, you're also a happy camper. So we got this question from a listener, and it's kind of around this idea of, okay, should I have two financial advisors? Seems like a good way to go. I'll get great advice from two people. Why not go that route? Sometimes it also happens to people by accident, I think, and we'll dive into the reasons why this happens. But here's the question from one of our listeners. Said, for years, I've had half of my money with one broker and half with somebody else. They're both nice guys, and I thought it would be good to get advice from two different people. But now it just seems confusing. Okay, so he's headed in the right direction, it sounds like. Am I better off having it all in one place? So let's zoom out first before we answer the question directly.
Yep.
Why do people seem to split their money sometimes? Because when I mentioned this topic, you were like, oh, this happens. This is the thing.
Exactly. Well, I just think the age-old saying is don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people still, kind of live by that saying. But I honestly do think it does create quite a bit of confusion. But I think people still seek diversification. They are looking for different advice from different advisors. If something happens to one particular advisor, not all of their eggs are in that one basket.
Sure.
I
mean, it makes sense if we hear diversification all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Diversification of your actual assets, like what they're invested in. Right. Why wouldn't I diversify with multiple pieces of advice or multiple leaders in this case? So I understand people's maybe confusion of like why they might go this route.
Yeah, it does create a lot of confusion, to be quite honest. So when we build a portfolio, let's say that we have a couple come into the office. One spouse is retired, one spouse is still working. If I don't know where the working spouse, where their assets are invested in their 401k, it makes it very difficult for me to do a good job with the other spouse's IRA, for example, depending on their risk tolerance. How much risk is that 401k taking? How do we balance that appropriately? So the same holds true if they have two separate advisors, even if they're fully retired. We need to see both portfolios. We do not want to take on too much risk. We don't want to build the portfolio too conservative, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want to have overlapping investments.
Okay.
So,
and it's more than just investments too, right? We think about the time blueprint, right? Navigating taxes, income, and estate planning. Money is a piece of that puzzle.
Of that. Yeah.
But the tax angle all on its own. To me, this brings out that big conversation of, okay, two financial advisors, but not all financial advisors are created equal.
That's 100% true. So, when it comes to generating income streams for somebody in retirement, there's different tax classifications with your assets, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Right.
So IRAs, 401ks are going to be taxed as ordinary income. Individual brokerage accounts, we call those non-qualified accounts, those can qualify for long-term capital gains, which can drastically reduce your taxes, right? So depending on where they're trying to generate income, if two advisors are trying to do that differently, and we don't know what portfolio the other advisor has, it's a disaster. It can really create some tax, chaos in your portfolio and create a lot of tax drag.
Sure.
End up giving too much money to the IRS and pulling your portfolio down.
Yeah. It seems like the moral of the story here isn't that you necessarily are going to sink your retirement by having two advisors,
right? But
there's not a whole lot of benefits and there's lots of risks that come along with it. So it's kind of like the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Correct. Yep.
I'm also thinking how there could be a problem with when you're trying to evaluate the value that you're getting from the help and the advice and the guidance of your advisor. Having two different advisors is going to really muddy the waters in terms of tracking fees and understanding what you're getting for what you're paying, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, it does muddy the waters when you're trying to track fees. I think it muddies the water too when you're trying to get advice because not all advisors think the same way about Roth conversions. I'm a big Roth conversion proponent. I think Roth IRAs are fantastic. There's some advisors out there that never recommend them. So if I'm giving Roth conversion advice and the other advisor's not giving any tax advice, concerning Roth conversions, that would create some confusion. Well, why are you why are you recommending a Roth conversion and the other advisor's not, right?
Yeah.
So then in your mind, you're trying to figure out who's giving you the best advice.
And it could be all with the best intentions, because you could be saying, hey, we're doing this conversion, and I'm just going to make this up. This is just an example, not advice by any means. But you could be saying, hey, I'm doing this conversion because when you turn 70, we're going to activate X, Y, and Z. And so we need this conversion in the meantime to accomplish that goal.
Right.
Other advisor might have the same goal, but he might bake the pie totally different, right? He might say, we're going to accomplish that same goal, but we're going to do it this way.
Right.
And it might be with, I'm just going to say, liquidating a 401k may be his solution. So now the client's probably not understanding, well, why is one telling me to do the Roth and the other's telling me to do the 401k? Both are giving you solid guidance, potentially. But if you follow both of their pieces of advice, we may no longer now be accomplishing that whole
Things
goal.
can just collide like that, Yeah. So, I mean, going back to the time plan, the time blueprint, when we build a financial plan, we have a pretty good idea of what the required minimum distributions are going to be at that age, right?
Yeah.
We also know what their budget is. So we can calculate that. We know what their Social Security benefits are going to be. And if they have a pension, we know what that benefit's going to be. So we know how much of the required distribution they're going to use. So when I make a Roth conversion decision, it's based off the RMD amount.
Yeah.
If you actually don't need that, maybe we should start converting that amount today, monitor your tax bracket so we don't put you in a higher tax bracket, lower your RMDs at retirement. And if another advisor doesn't use software, to make those decisions, and again, you're going to get some conflicting advice.
If you feel like this is resonating a little bit, whether it be that you just in general don't have that clear plan or solution built out for your retirement or financial future, or maybe it's because you're working with multiple advisors and you're not sure who to listen to. Maybe you're seeing some of these things starting to happen in your own financial plan. If you'd like to go through that review process that Frank has talked about, put together your own time blueprint, talk about taxes, income, money, and estate planning, all the moving parts about retirement and financial planning, you can set that up by clicking the link in the description of today's show. That'll allow you to schedule a one-on-one visit with Frank and the team. They're based, of course, in Colorado, but you can meet from anywhere remotely.
Absolutely.
Again, just click that link in the description and you can have that conversation. All right, I want to back up real quick, Frank.
Okay.
All right. It can't always be this bad, right, to have the two advisors. So are there any cases where it makes sense to have multiple advisors? Let's shine maybe a positive light on it.
Well, I think a positive light would be different advisors maybe in the tax space, the estate planning space, so then you bring that team together.
So some sort of specialty.
And those are multiple advisors just in different capacities. And I think that, multiple advisors should collaborate on a certain plan. So when we have somebody get an estate plan done, we like to meet with the attorney, make sure that it's all set up correctly. If they have an accountant, I'm happy to talk to the accountant. So I think having that team, assembled is very important.
Yeah. So even though you have, as an example, estate planning in the name of your planning process, there are times and situations where you're going to be pulling in that outside attorney when the situation calls for it.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So honestly, the advisor, it sounds like, should be kind of the quarterback of the team, if that makes sense, like bringing in additional people to join the squad.
We try to coordinate that quite a bit. We refer our clients to multiple attorneys on a monthly basis. So I think it's important to have a quality attorney and tax prep person in your courts. And we offer all of those, recommendations.
Yeah.
Referrals.
I could see maybe if somebody had some sort of niche expertise in, like, I don't know, high-end business sales, like selling your business in some sort of high net worth capacity.
Niche. Yeah.
That's not, we're not grouping those things into this conversation. That you might have multiple advisors.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Just try not to have too much of the overlap happening.
It creates confusion. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. Excellent. So I guess to answer this listener's question directly, am I better off having it all in one place? Certainly, we can't tell you without looking at your specific situation, right? But certainly seems
sometimes less can be more.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good way to end it right there. Less can be more.
Yep.
Well, again, if you'd like to schedule time to meet with Frank, have a review of your financial situation, your retirement goals, your vision, and how you're going to make it all happen, that's all part of the planning process. And all you have to do to set up that time to visit is click the link in the description of today's show, schedule your time, and you can be on your way to a solid financial plan and a more confident financial future. Well, Frank, thanks so much. Enjoy the fall colors, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, see you soon.
All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time. Investment advisory services offered through Creative One Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. Oliver Asset Management and Creative One Wealth are unaffiliated entities. Licensed insurance professional. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as advice or a recommendation for your specific circumstances. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Insurance product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. We are not affiliated with any government agency and do not provide tax or legal advice.